Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this live Bengals Training Camp Report. It is brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm Dan Hoard. That is my broadcast partner, Dave Lapham. And Lap, today, it kind of felt like we had exclusive passwords to a very exclusive club because we got to watch practice for the first time today. We had to pass 3 COVID-19 tests in the last 5 days. We also had to wear these devices which glow red and beep anytime we get too close to anybody. So we are definitely in the clear. We obviously passed our tests, and that meant today we got to watch Joe Burrow practice in a Bengals uniform for the first time.
Really, Dan, it was almost like the first day of school. The first day of school for a lot of the players, too. They've been out there for a while, though, but the same principal, Zach Taylor, so the principal is the same. Some of the position players, though, have new teachers. They get new coaches, and then a bunch of new faces, new teammates, so that they have to get used to working with. But, yeah, watching Joe Burrow throw the football, Dan, it's impressive. The best way for me to describe Joe Burrow throwing is he throws a catchable football. I remember wide receivers all the time saying, man, the ball is so easy to catch from Kenny Anderson because it's a tight spiral. It doesn't have so much fire on it that it breaks or dislocates your fingers when you catch it. And he puts it in great spots. He puts it in spots that you don't have to slow down to catch or work too hard and stretch till you're laid out for a big hit. You catch the ball in stride. And that builds trust and confidence very quickly. And the other thing about Joe Burrow, Dan, that I really liked is when he sees it, and he sees it very quickly, when he starts his throwing motion to the completion of that throwing motion, it's like right now. I mean, he has a very, very quick release in his throwing motion. I'm really impressed with him.
We've heard a lot, and we saw last year at LSU that he had excellent ball placement in leading the Tigers to an undefeated season and winning the Heisman Trophy. To me, that was what stood out the most today. When a player makes his break and is running toward the sideline or cutting across the middle of the field, he's hitting them in stride. The hands are slightly extended out in front of the body. He did that throw after throw after throw.
His windows are small and tight. He's not thrown into a picture window. He's thrown into a porthole. I mean, he really brings it down. I've told this story before, but I remember being at a camp with Kenny Anderson, summer camp for high school football players, and doing some things with Kenny so he could keep sharp with his throwing. And he would throw me the football from a 25 or 30-yard distance, and as he's throwing the ball, he'd say, right shoulder, boom. The ball had hit me right in the shoulder, my right shoulder. Navel, boom. Ball was right at my belly button. So from that distance, 25, 30 yards, he's hitting, different body parts that's a tight window. That's what I'm talking about with Joe Burrow. He can hit those tight spots. And, watching him throw the football reminded me of old number 14 a little bit. It really did.
The footage that we're showing took place earlier today. The Bengals practiced from about 10:30 to 11:30. As you can see, they were wearing helmets. This is the second stage. They'll progress to full pads on Tuesday of next week. Lap, explain what they were doing today. What did practice look like?
Well, obviously no full contact, but a lot of footwork things. Dan, the thing that stood out to me when you see the professional level, you watch football at different levels, high school, college, NFL level. At the NFL level, the explosiveness of the players, the suddenness of the players, all those things are evident. Getting in, sinking their hips and getting in and out of a cut so quickly, cutting on a dime, making throws, making catches. Now, there was no contact. It was a lot of individual drills, not a whole lot of team drills. It's in that ramping up stage. So they're going to be in helmets through the weekend until Monday. And then full pads come on Tuesday. So watching the offensive line, you can say, wow, Jonah Williams, man, he has some good feet. He's got some quick feet. He's got tremendous footwork. Now let's see what it's like with pads on, because, you get in position with your feet, then you have to finish with your upper body, and you don't start doing all that until you throw pads on with those helmets. So offensive line play and defensive line play, linebacker play, right now it's all just about technique, making sure they're in the right spots with their feet. You have to get there before you can finalize and finish a play. And then Tuesday, once they put the pads on, the final stages of that will take place.
The angle that you are seeing in the middle of the screen is basically the angle that we had. We were standing on a platform behind an end zone at the edge of one of the fields. So some of the drills took place very close to us. Others were far away. Moments ago, we saw team president Mike Brown. He watched practice with a mask on the entire time. The coaches had masks on the entire time. Did anything stand out to you about the coaches as you watch them run a practice under these circumstances?
Well, Dan, the thing is, COVID-19 is non-discriminatory. It's not just players. Like John Ross has had a little issue with his family that he's gone out west to take care of. Coaches can get afflicted as well. And so you have to have a chain of command. Back in the day when I played for the Bengals in the early stages with Paul Brown, every position coach was responsible for special teams. Running back coach had the punt team. Secondary coach had punt return. Offensive line coach had extra points, field goals. Everybody had a unit on special teams. And looking at practice today, a bunch of assistant coaches were helping with special teams, because if Darren Simmons, God forbid, is struck with COVID-19, and honestly, he probably interacts with more players than any coach. In his meeting room, he's got players from every position group. So your special teams coach is interacting with everybody. And if he has an issue, he has an assistant, but then there's a trickle-down effect. So other coaches are pitching in. Coaches are taking other responsibilities on that they hadn't necessarily before COVID-19, because you have to have, if Zach goes down, who's the acting head coach? If it's the coordinator, who's the acting coordinator when that coordinator becomes the acting head coach? And so on. The trickle-down effect is extreme from top to bottom. So watching that a little bit today, how coaches were not just solely on their position groups, they were kind of commingling around and doing some other things with other positions. That was quite interesting to watch.
We are looking at a wonderful sight in the middle of the screen right now. Number 18, AJ Green. He's back. He looks as good as ever, Lap.
And I'll tell you what, magnificent athlete. And he has gotten himself in, world-class shape. Watching him out there, it's almost like you're watching an Olympic athlete. He's that ready to play. And he is so smooth. Everything is effortless with AJ Green. He caught one ball. The receivers were running routes in the end zone right below us, Dan. So effortless, and he just plucked that football. He got his hands up and down with the football in a tenth of a second. He didn't just get it and keep him up. It's boom. Pluck that thing. It's like, whoa, man, AJ he is so skilled and so talented, and his route running is so extraordinary and so smooth. I'll tell you what, AJ, he looks like he's a finely tuned machine ready to have a big season.
We know that's a deep and talented group. I was impressed today by Mike Thomas, number 80, free agent that they picked up with the Rams. He didn't get a lot of snaps as a wide receiver with Los Angeles. He did play a lot on special teams, but he looks fast. He made a spectacular one-handed, left-handed catch. I don't know where he fits in the mix, but he looked good today.
Danny's got jackhammer feet. He's got really, really quick feet. And it shows up in his route running. It shows up in his separation when he gets in and out of that cut, the separation that he gets. And like you said, made the one-handed catch. Zach Taylor knows what he's got there. Zach Taylor's had experience with Thomas and knows exactly what he's looking at there. And it's all good.
We're seeing some of the running backs right now. Obviously, we were excited to see Joe Mixon do his thing, and there's another guy who looks like he is primed to have a big season.
Joe Mixon, man. I think Joe Mixon, his love of the game of football is almost childlike, which is a positive. He loves his football, loves his teammates. He's unbridled joy. When I watch Joe Mixon, even at practice, it makes me excited about football because he's so enthusiastic about the game of football. And Joe always feels like he's got something to prove. He had a hell of a year. He was as good as the NFL had to offer in the last 8 games of the season, bar none. Joe Mixon was as good as anybody. And he wants to continue from that point forward. He has a chip on his shoulder about as big as a 2x4. he wants to get that contract extension. He wants to make the Pro Bowl. He wants to be on a Super Bowl winning football team. And those are the individual things that come with, as he knows as well as anybody or better, team success. And he's all about his teammates.
Everybody is interested to see the offensive line and the linebackers in this camp. Those groups did not get that close to where we were today. Then again, since they're not in pads yet, I'm not that sure we would have seen that much watching those guys today.
Agreed, Dan. I mean, the rubber meets the road on Tuesday a little bit. They'll get thumping pretty good on Tuesday when they throw the shoulder pads on with the helmets. And but right now it's all about footwork. It's all about technique. It's all about getting yourself in position to execute a block, in position to get off a block, separate from a block, and make a tackle. But boy, looking at some of the guys, I can see why they were excited about Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams, Brian Callahan said, "Yeah, Jonah. Hey, Jonah, what's up? He looks good." Jordan Evans looks good. Jordan Evans redid his body. Billy Price is 330 pounds. Billy Price says, "Hey, Coach Turner likes big guys. I'm going to be a big guy." And so Billy Price has responded like you hope as a teammate and a coach he would. He high number one pick coming out of Ohio State. It really hasn't unfolded the way he wanted it to. He's not assuming the fetal position. He's trying to do something about it, trying to improve himself and improve the offensive line as a whole. Those are the kind of things you like to see, So, again, on the hoof, it all looks good. Meat on the hoof right now all looks real good. Now, it's separating the men from the boys, and the rubber meets the road. When those shoulder pads come on, start thumping, Dan.
Lap, we just saw moments ago, number 8, quarterback Brandon Allen separated from the other 3 quarterbacks. We've talked about the idea of quarantining one of the quarterbacks just in case, and we saw how the Bengals are doing that, or at least got a little bit of a taste of how the Bengals are doing that today.
Dan, he never set the huddle, broke the huddle, went to the line of scrimmage and ran a play with any unit. But every single snap, he was behind everybody and everything, and he's familiar with the offense. He's got experience with Zach's offense, so he's getting the call. He's behind everything. He's going through his footwork when it's a running play, taking his drop, making his reads, going through the throwing motion, not necessarily throwing the football, but there were periods when the quarterbacks were out of pocket and moving. He would be behind them. They'd be out of pocket, running the play, throwing to a receiver. He'd throw to a different receiver in the combination of the route. But he never did set the huddle, break the huddle, run the play from the line of scrimmage. He was doing all of his mechanics and his responsibilities, and then actually throwing the football behind the formation. And he did it a lot of the individual drills, team drills. And then after practice, Dan, he stayed longer to get a little bit more throwing, and getting that arm ready. So it's interesting. They're keeping him away from everybody, but still keeping him mentally and as physically sharp as they possibly can. It was an interesting concept to watch.
Joe Burrow is not the only newcomer that we saw for the first time. DJ Reader, Von Bell, we mentioned Mike Thomas, Xavier Suafilo, etc. It really does underscore, Lap, to me at least, how remarkable it was that they were able to bring in so many accomplished players from winning teams after going 2-14 last year.
And Dan, it speaks to their ability to recruit, in my estimation. And it's just like college coaches recruiting really good high school athletes. Free agency is all about your ability to recruit. And you say, 2-14, how the heck are you going to get some top line players? It tells me, DJ Reader mentioned it during his press conference. He said, in conversation with Zach Taylor, I found that and Mike Daniels did as well. I found that he's a player's coach as such. He really cares about his players. He wants to take care of his players. A young guy that can relate to these young players. I think that Zach Taylor has done one hell of a job on these Zoom calls, along with other members of the organization and his coaching staff, in selling these players. And honestly, they recruited well. I mean, they landed some 5-star recruits. There's no doubt about it. They've landed guys that, Mike Daniels has a Pro Bowl on his resume. DJ Reader, he's going to be he could end up in the prime of his career making a few Pro Bowls if he plays as expected with the Cincinnati Bengals. And look at what they got in the secondary. Their defensive line, that interior defensive tackle rotation of Geno Atkins, DJ Reader, and Mike Daniels, as a former interior offensive lineman, bring your lunch pail. I'm telling you, that's a pretty good rotation inside. And then, with Carlos Dunlap and Sam Hubbard and Lawson on the edge, I mean, their defensive front and their back end by free agency and the draft has drastically improved. Linebackers, as well. They addressed it as well in both the draft and free agency. Let's see if that's upgraded. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of it pans out. In the draft, there's no recruiting in the draft, obviously, but you have to evaluate properly. You have having the first pick of every draft, you got to put your bat on the ball and evaluate players properly. And right now, everybody passes the eyeball test. When we looked out on the field today, there was nobody that I would say, Dan, oof, what's that guy doing here? He stinks. That guy doesn't belong here. Everybody belongs. Everybody that was on that football field should have been on that football field. That speaks to evaluation and recruitment.
I know it's only a jersey, but it's kind of nice to see you lined up next to Anthony Munoz again.
I'll tell you what, my guy, I'm telling you, the greatest athlete over 250 pounds. I'll throw him in the hunt with anybody. Anthony Munoz was unbelievable. And when he first came to the team, when he was drafted out of USC, Dan, he had this big afro. And I mean, he filled the doorway literally with his hair and his overall size and body. And he went out in the field and he started moving around like a ballerina. I mean, he's got the sweetest feet. He was moving like a defensive back, a 200-pound DB at left tackle. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is destined for greatness. And as we all know, even better human being.
All right. Well, it was fun watching practice for the first time today. It was nice that the bouncer led us behind the ropes and we were able to go into the exclusive club. And we'll be doing these regularly. Our next live training camp report will be on Tuesday. Again, that is the first day that the Bengals will be in full pads. So that one is going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely.